welcome to NAPOD, where we provide NA speaker meetings and workshops in a podcast. We are an ad-free podcast, and if you enjoy listening, please help us to be self-supporting by visiting napod.xyz, look for the donate link, and drop $1 or $2 in the virtual basket. If you're also in AA or have friends that are, please tell them about our other podcast, Sobercast. Sobercast features AA speakers and workshops in the same format as NAPOD. We upload a new speaker every day, and it's easy to subscribe by searching for Sobercast, that's 2 words, on any podcast player app, or go to Sobercast.com. Enjoy the podcast, and thanks for listening.
My name's Maurice, I'm an addict. It's very nice to be asked to speak, and I wasn't feeling nervous at all until this second, which will pass very quickly once I get through my self-centeredness. And it's funny, I said to my wife that, I've been asked to do this chair, and I said, she said, what type of meeting is it? I said, it's a speaker meeting. I said, it's 2 speakers. And she said, what's that consist of? I said, someone speaks for 15 or 20 minutes, and someone speaks for 40 minutes. And she said, you'll love that if you're doing the 40 minutes, wouldn't you? She says, you love talking about yourself. So she said, it's going to be a great opportunity for you to drivel on about you. I said, thanks for your support, because she's in recovery. So, as you can gather, I won't find it difficult speaking for 40 minutes, and you might have had difficulty in shutting me up. But it's a rare it's a rare opportunity to be able to share for more than 10 or 15 minutes and just give an outline of my long and boring using and life of coming back and forward to Narcotics Anonymous, and the times that I've gone and tried it again thinking that it would be different, and finding out it wasn't. And to give you a brief outline, because it's a story in itself, I came to my first NA meeting on November the 27th, 1984. And there was a life before that. But and it got really bad before I came to my first meeting. And I'd had horrendous rock bottoms by the time I'd come to my first meeting. But unfortunately, I didn't realise that. And I had to go out and have worse rock bottoms with the knowledge that I didn't have to be doing it, which made it even harder. But pre my first meeting of being introduced to Narcotics Anonymous, I'd come from the East End. I'd come from a nutty family, like most of us. It was completely insane, and I had a half brother and sister that I felt completely different. I had a father that I thought worked away, but he didn't work away. He was with his wife and 3 children living somewhere else. And I thought he was working somewhere. I had stories of my grandfather that I never met, that he worked away, but he never worked away. He was in prison, and he'd come back, and then he weren't working away, and then he'd be off again, and granddad's working away again. And it was like, and I had this dad that I thought had this really important job, and he didn't have an important job. He was going home to his wife, who lived 3 miles from where my mum lived, with his 3 kids that I've never met. And my mum would tell me, Dad's gone off to work, and I chose to believe her. And then, and then I had there was, for many, many years, I've had, I come from East London, and I had, I suppose, people's preconception that if you was Jewish, you had to have money, or come from a wealthy family. Well, I lived in a council flat. My mum never had a pot to whatever you do with it, because you're not supposed to use that sort of language in this meeting. And, she was bringing up me and my half-brother and sister. We were very little. She had the mentality, God rest her soul, that she was entitled to get everything she could from Social Security because it was her duty to look after her and her kids. My half-brother was mentally retarded. He got state benefit, which he gave straight to my mum. And in between all this, my dad was there occasionally up until I was 8 years old. And I'd continually see him smashing up and flat. And I suppose, people talk about different drugs they use. My first thing that I suppose I really got into was to want to escape. And I escaped at a very young age through television. As my dad was crashing my mum around the living room, I would not take my eyes off the television set because I'd be so scared of what was going on. And, he vanished when I was 8. I never saw him again. And I lived for years with this vision of this man, this knight in shining armour that was going to come home one day and rescue me from the wicked witch, who was my mother, and take me to somewhere else. A bit like Lisa said about take me to another family, and I'd have another surrounding, and it would be completely different, and it would be happy. And my mother struggled, God rest her soul, all her life. And she never had a kind word to say for anyone. And that rubbed off on me. And she couldn't help herself but to slate every single person that came into her life. And slate them to the degree of that, there wasn't a person on television that got away with it. There wasn't a friend of hers who at some point she hadn't smiled at, and then as they left the room, I'm not going to repeat what she said, but there was absolutely everyone. So I was brought up with this lovely sort of, healthy feelings that were going around the flat, etc., which of course I decided to take to the outside world myself. So, we'll go through that because we could be here forever. We ended up, I left school because I thought the important thing was that if I get out and earn a few quid, my mum will love me. And I left school at 14, which you could do then. And if I couldn't earn it, I'd steal it. And I've learned that from a very young age. So I had numerous different arrests, I had numerous different jobs. I did quite well, then I got caught stealing somewhere and I went to court, and then my mum came to court for me once, and to stop me from going to prison, she said that, she forced me to break off an engagement, which was all fanny. She just did that, and it was all of a sudden, it was in the Hackney Gazette, love tragedy with a happy ending. And I escaped prison on that particular occasion through my mum's kindness, which I had to pay for many years for what she did for me on that occasion. And, time and time again, I was getting myself in trouble in different situations, and I got heavily into gambling. I was engaged. I'd met someone when I was 17, got engaged. My friends were getting engaged. I thought, well, I should get engaged, and maybe I'll be alright if I get engaged. And we ended up booking to get married, but in between this, I'm embarrassed to say, we'd argue, so I'd hit her, and I'd hit her because I thought that's what you do, because I saw my dad hitting my mum, and no one told me that's what you didn't do, and I really loved this girl, but every time she'd say things that I didn't like, I'd hit her like with a newspaper or this, that and the other. My mum, who loved me very much, would say to her, you need to get away from him, he's no good, he's like his father, he's rotten to the core, get away! And of course she didn't listen, and eventually she did listen, and that finished, and by then I started smoking puff and and I suppose that's where the Jew in me came out. I realised it was very expensive, and I thought, well, I better start selling it, because then I'll be able to smoke more. And I thought, well, there's an opportunity here, and I seized on that opportunity, and I became from being Maurice to Mo the blow. And I proceeded to sell cannabis, etc., and we went down a few, and I used to love taking LSD and mandreps, and which then became tunal, which a few people might remember, and I used to love the whole thing with LSD going out. I was going out and rubbing a pretend genie pot, which was a teacup, and pretending I was going to be taken somewhere, and I took all these drugs, and I didn't, the bizarre thing was I would take some, and if I didn't like it, I'd take it again, and I tried that with acid, I tried that with, God bless anyone here who was addicted to speed. I despise speed. But I had to keep taking it. Really, I'm talking about despised. I nearly despised speed as much as I despised crack. But the only good thing about speed was it was so cheap. And you thought you was getting value for money. Which I can never say I felt about crack. So, subsequently, as a lot of my story was about, rock bottoms were in my younger years about relationships finishing, and it was decided it was time to go on a bender. So anyway, Janice, God bless her, she realised that I wasn't a good bet, and that this was only going to get worse, and her wonderful mother, who I despise, told her, you need to get away from him, and she hadn't listened to my mum, but one day she decided to listen to her mum, and I was like, how dare you, how could you listen to her, she's an old witch. And I decided to throw myself into tunal, brandy and weightlifting. I'd be dribbling and frothing at the mouth, lifting weights, saying, I hate her, look what she's done to me! And subsequently, it got worse and worse and worse, and then I was in a blackout, and I was supposed to have met these people in Ludgate Circus, and cut a long story short, I was by then manager of a shop in the city, and my pal who was working with me, my assistant, he went to me, come to the door, Maurice, he's got to have a look at this burger woman, oh, she's gorgeous. So I ran to the front and I thought, she's nice, and she went, oh, hello, Maurice. I said, oh, hello. I said, I don't mean to be rude, do I know you? She said, do you know my fiancée works a few doors along? He said, we went for a drink, and she said, you passed out. I said, oh, right. I said, oh, I'm really sorry, I can't remember meeting you. I said, oh, nice to see you. Anyway, cut a long story short, this was a lesson that I learned many years later. The way you find them is the way you'll lose them. And I found her she was going out with some guy who was engaged to someone up the road. And all of a sudden, 3 months later, I'm seeing her behind his back. It's come on top. We've had a mad fight. That means I must really want her, because I've had to fight for her. And, well, will you marry me? So all of a sudden, this woman I met in a blackout, who was engaged to someone else, I was marrying. And I had a bloody cheek, and she lived in Manor Park, and we had to go there, and she had to tell him that she didn't want to be with him anymore. And I told you she wanted me, and I said, no, she don't want you, she wants me. He left. I said, I love you. She said, I love you. Let's get married. And that was it. We got married. And it was one of those real, you only learn in hindsight, hopefully. It was a rebound job that went completely wrong. And subsequently we got married, and everyone thought she looked wonderful. And she looked great. That made me feel good. We never spoke. There was no communication. I'd get home after working 10 hours a day, and Coronation Street would be on, and I would ramble on for half an hour about how my day had been, and at the end of the half hour she'd go, what? And it only got worse. I started having affairs. She was not really interested, I weren't really interested. She had a continual migraine for 4 years. How we had a daughter, I never know. And we ended up splitting up. We had a daughter. She'd come back to me, so she said, I'm pregnant. She said, let's try it again. We did. We had the baby, my daughter Cassie. We stayed together for the baby for about 8 or 9 months. Then one day I came home. I was working the markets at the time. I was working Deptford Market. I drove back to East London to where we were living, and the house was empty. Everything had been taken. And in my daughter's room, I ran up to my daughter's room, which I'd had a lot of pride in getting this, try and get it right. There was a chair and there was a cotton wool bug left on the floor. And she'd taken my daughter and she'd taken everything. And anyway, cut a long story short, I went completely AWOL. I went back to thinking I should be a weightlifter again. And I started taking Tunal again, bottles of brandy, with cocaine, sniffing loads of coke, puffing, and completely desperate, lifting weights, and then her coming and telling me that she'd been sleeping with my best friend, and that my daughter might not be mine. And that just fueled everything inside me to just go on a mad bender. By then, there was a pal of mine who'd become homeless. Everyone said, oh, maybe you can help Steve out, and Steve moved in, and all of a sudden, Steve was always in this I had a nice chairs and sofa, and he was in this chair, and he rarely moved. And I thought, he doesn't ever want to do anything, what's wrong with him? Like, meanwhile, I'm getting paralytic, taking loads of Tunal. And he's chopping up this white powder, and he's going, no, I'm alright, Mo, I'm really okay. And I'm going, you need to do something, Steve. So anyway, cut a long story short, he's taking China White, and I'm saying to him, it's no good for you, all this, da-da-da. And anyway, a few months go by, I make a call to my ex-wife, I hear my daughter at the time, it's all really pathetic stuff. I heard her say, Dada, she was living with this other geezer. I completely broke down, emotionally unstable, etc., etc. Steve said, oh, have a bit of this, it'll make you feel better. Surprise, surprise, I did. Surprise, surprise, I liked it. Surprise, surprise, I was threw up and wanted more. And I found it. Lovely. Oblivion. So I started taking loads of this stuff. All of a sudden I was in another chair. All of a sudden it wasn't odd him being in a chair because I was next to him. And the Jew in me ruled his ugly head and thought, fuck it, this is no good. Thought it's really expensive. Maybe we'll start dealing it and it'll be cheaper. And, you know, I was never a very good dealer. It never worked out. And, you know, so all of a sudden that started and, you know, slowly everything started going. I lost my driving licence for drunk driving. I got numerous car crashes, more robberies, and everything just started going completely out the window. And I ended up going to court, getting away with it. Going to court, getting another squeeze. Going to court, community service. Going to court, suspended sentence. Going to court, getting put on remand, another burglary, while on bail, while on a suspended sentence. My mum dressed herself up with my aunts, who dressed themselves up, came to Snaresbrook's Crown Court, thinking that, well, they'll see he comes from a nice family, maybe he'll get another squeeze. And I've been on remand for 3 months, I'd put a bit of weight on. The judge looked at me, he said, you've had chance after chance after chance. He said, Maurice, you're a menace to society and a menace to yourself. I'm sending you to prison. And I turned around and thought he must be talking to my co-defendant. He cannot be talking to me because I'm a good person. My mum was in shock horror with her moody mink on. She was horrified that the judge hadn't seen that I'd come from such a good background. And I got this 2-year prison sentence. And I remember my mum coming downstairs in the cells and there was glass between us. And my mum was a strong East End woman, upright, massive breasts, like a sergeant major. And she cried her eyes out, seeing me behind this glass. And I was so ashamed that my mother had to come and see me in this ear and then go to prison. And then I had the humiliation for a long time when my mother coming to visit me where everyone else had vanished, and my mum would bring a smoked salmon bagel on a visit, thinking that, well, he'll like that, with a bit of cream cheese, and slip me a tenner that would go in a part of my body that wouldn't be seen, so I could buy some illegal tobacco or something, or you know. And every 2 weeks I'd have the chaps going to me, there's your mum. And every 2 weeks I felt ashamed that that was the only person left that would come and see me. Not the blessing that she was able to come and see me. I couldn't look at that gift. All I could see was that this is how I'd ended up. So anyway, now we get to move on. I come out of prison 3 days after I'm out of prison. 2 people who I knew, came to visit me, and they said to me, oh, we go to this NA. Oh, I'd had someone come and visit me in prison who told me they'd found out this thing and had been in a treatment centre. And I've got to tell you this because it's hilarious. So he's gone to me, oh, I found a way of getting clean, and I'm sure he was pinned, and he's gone, I brought you something. So I've smuggled this tissue in. He's gone, nice. He said, when you get back to your cell. So I'll go back to the cell, and a couple of people have gone to me, oh, you had a visit from a friend. I've gone, yeah. They've gone, sweet? I've gone, yeah, sweet. And I'll go back with this tissue all excited, frothing at the mouth. And I'll get back to the cell, and I'll slowly undo this tissue. Well, anyway, cut a long story short, I'm undoing it really slowly and softly and looking out, make sure I'm not going to get caught. They'd used it all on the way up there, felt too ashamed to tell me that they'd done it all, and there was nothing in the tissue. And I've told all these people, and this person's actually in recovery now. We've had a chat about that. And Fort held on to that for a long time. So anyway, I've ended up taking my first meeting. without boring you, because we're running out of time here, I've ended up in a treatment centre in 85, stayed clean for 6 months. A treatment centre in 86, I stayed clean for 5 months. I got clean again then, I stayed clean for nearly 3 years. I ended up using again, I ended up in another treatment centre. I come out and I used again after 18 months. I then ended up in a day centre and I stayed clean for over 9 years, 9 years and 2 months. I then ended up using again and ended up in 2 more treatment centres and using after I'd left the second one, walked out the first one with a lovely young woman who had "I'm a raving lunatic" flashing on her forehead, and I've had loads of them over the years. Loads. "I'm trouble, rescue me." God, have I been drawn to that route? There she is. Oh, listen, so that's I mean, I could do a 40-minute chair just on that. I'm insane, here I am. I'm insane too, hi. Oh dear. In recovery, out of recovery. Oh, this will be different this time. She's not got a problem. She doesn't need recovery. My God! And I would like to say that in regards of being clean before, I would not sit here and say to anyone that there was all that times that I was clean was rubbish, or you had a crap recovery. Because that is rubbish in itself. I had good recovery for periods of all those clean times. But there was a point where I thought I didn't need to do it anymore. Or I didn't need to do enough anymore. Or I didn't need to change anymore. Or I didn't need to work the steps. That's the point where my recovery became rubbish. It wasn't that, that service wasn't enough to keep me clean. Being, "Oh, isn't Maurice doing well now?" kept me clean. Or raving lunatics that I chose to go out with, they weren't going to keep me clean. The bottom line was that I needed to keep myself clean. And in between all this, when my first wife left me, she took my daughter and I never saw her again. And I never thought I needed to work the steps. I thought I'd had such horrendous rock bottoms that there was no need for me to work the steps. I've shared everything briefly in meetings. I've done the dramatic share in a meeting. People go, I've done that, and then that's enough, I don't need to say anymore. You've heard a bit, that's enough. I've revealed a bit of myself. I really didn't think I needed to do what most people do that want an ongoing recovery, which was work the steps. Or try out and work the steps to the best of my ability. Not your ability, my ability. So I ended up, time and time again, 1, 2, 3, step 4, this ain't working, I can't work with this sponsor, he doesn't understand me, the right pen didn't work, the right place to go and write my step 4 didn't work. One sponsor took me to a monastery to write my step 4 where we didn't speak, you weren't allowed to talk or anything. That drove me complete. Can you imagine? Me not talking for 48 hours, it was an absolute nightmare. I kept nudging him and I thought, shh, right. Right pen, right surrounding, right. I went on holidays to perfect destinations to do this magical step 4, which never got done. It never got completed. A bit of pain had come up. No, not for me. Let's go and find another lunatic. That'd be a lot easier to recover. Time and again, I'd get to that place where the hole was so big, as much as I didn't want to use, I found myself with a drug in my mouth again. I'd used everything else, they'd stopped working, and I found a drug. So, just before I used at 9 years clean, I decided to track down my daughter, who I hadn't seen for 24 years. I decided if I find her, it'll be alright. I'm going to be alright then. Because that's my biggest amends, what I did to her. So I get a private investigator to find her. 6 months later, she calls me. She didn't want anything to do with me. She calls me and she agrees to meet me for the first time at Euston Station. And I didn't even know what she looked like. And I went and met this girl that I never knew. And my fantasy was of this little baby that I'd left when she was 9 months old. And all of a sudden I'm meeting this young woman. I'd not worked any steps. I was full of fear. I was full of, I suppose really, and it's embarrassing to say to a room full of people, I was looking upon this situation as something that's going to fix me. Something that's going to make me feel better about me. Something that's going to take away the guilt and the shame that I've carried for years through the different things that I've done. This will make it better. And like every single thing else in my life, it worked for a few months. And then it stopped working. Because I hadn't put the work into it. And subsequently, I was over 9 years clean. My daughter, who's not an addict, who likes having a bit of weed now and again, I wanted to be cool. Yeah, that's great. Oh, he's so funny. He's so good company. Oh, my mates have them round. Oh, he even got me some skunk. He's so cool. One day I thought, well, yeah, I'm watching her. She's had the skunk and she's got the toaster on and this marmite, sandwich bread, jam, giggling, munching. Yeah, oh, yeah, smell, lovely. Oh, shall we go outside and smoke it? No, smoke it here. One day, so all of a sudden I've got some in the car. I'm sleeping with someone I don't want to be sleeping with. She's not in recovery. I'm finding it a bit boring in certain departments. I'm thinking, well, maybe if she has tried a skunk, it might liven up proceedings. I'm getting skunk off of people to give her, to give my daughter, but I'm going to meetings and I'm okay. And so I've moved to Brighton, I'm walking the dog, it's a nice sunny day, and I've gone, I've had enough of this. I'm going to have a joint. And I had a joint. 2 weeks later, the geezer that I'm scoring grass from, who I've never scored grass from, knows that I've been in recovery. I said to him, don't you sell that other stuff? He said, what's that? I said, you sell coke, didn't you? He said, you don't take that, do you? I said, no, I don't. But I said, but my mate wants some. So I buy a gram off him. I rush back to the flat. I'm foaming at the mouth. It's been over 9 years. I rushed to the hardware shop, bought some ammonia. I'm dribbling on the way back to the flat. I'm shaking. I've got the spoon and I'm shaking. And I've poured the ammonia and I've poured too much because I ain't done it for so long. I've ruined the gram. Right? I've ended up, got this little thing back, boom, put it on the pipe, smoked it, got wired, got that all, and rushed back to his house. I've been gone half hour. He says to me, is there something wrong? I said, my mate, I've like that. So, we proceeded with this stupid game that I'd go there, pouring with sweat, dripping, wired out like that. Can you have another gram? And he used to let me play this game because it was much better serving me by the gram than charge me cheaper for the 3.5. And my insanity was I didn't want him to know that it was for me. So I'd buy a gram and pay full price, which was really against my whole upbringing and everything. I'd pay full price for the gram because I didn't want to let him know that it was for me. So anyway, that cut a long story short, that went on. I ended up, petrified to get a heroin habit again, which of course I did. And I tried fixing up coke again, couldn't find a vein. I'd lost my vein years ago from a drug called diconol. The days of my veins were over. But I thought, 9 years I haven't used. 9 years, they must be alright now. So, I'm looking there, I'm looking here, I'm looking there. Ended up, in my feet. I've got blood everywhere. Trying to find a vein. I thought I would, 9 years have gone by, I must be out. So that went out the window. It's heroin, 2 treatment centres, another country. And I decided that, enough's enough. I was in South Africa. I'd gone there to try and stop using. I'd used heavily in South Africa. I ended up getting on a plane, and the gift I got from South Africa was that the day I left South Africa was the day I stopped using. That was the gift I got from going. I was there 5 months, 2 treatment centres, near-death experiences, and I escaped South Africa without dying. And I got a day clean leaving there. I came back, I did 90 meetings in 90 days. I started working the steps. I did a thorough step 4, as thorough as I could. People are bored of hearing it, but I didn't think I was resentful, and it ended up like 740 resentments. I didn't think I was jealous. Everyone had jealousy, envy, petrified that I'll lose what I've got, I'll never get what I want. Or you've got what I want and I'll never get it. That's the basis of my step 4. It was boring, it was monotonous. My sponsor at the time took 2 days off of work, listened to it, nodded off in between at certain points. This thing that I thought was going to be like this wonderful, you've never heard anything like it. He nodded off in between some of the things that I thought were really important. And we cried together. He took 2 days off of work to listen to this drivel. He took another half a day on the Saturday to listen to another part of my step 4. My sexual inventory of where I thought I'd been so wonderful to the opposite sex. And I had to realise that I'd been an absolute arsehole. And that, I needed to change my behaviour around women. Like I needed to change my behaviour around everything. And subsequently I did all this. I did 90 meetings in 90 days. I got involved in the fellowship again. I was going to meetings regularly. My wife's in the other fellowship. I was doing a couple of those meetings at the time. I don't now. I only go to NA now. I thought this woman was really stuck up and had her head up her own backside and never looked at me like I was the plague or something. And we spoke one night after a meeting and we went out to eat, and I knew she was the one. And 6 months later we got married. This August the 18th we've been married 3 years. I'm nearly 5.5 years clean again. On November the 4th, my little boy was born. And I was able to be there. And I was able to be present for the first time in my life. I was able. I've been given an opportunity to love like I've never been able to love before. And it's made me and Lucy become closer. My little boy Nathaniel, he's just started learning how to clap, and I love him like I've never loved anything in my whole life. And I want to give him what my mother never knew how to give me. I want to give my wife a relationship that my father never knew how to give my mother. I want to be a person that one day my son can be proud of. And I'd like a lot of this to have happened years ago. I didn't expect to be pushing pushchairs now and carrying babies up flights of stairs. But it's a gift. I've been given a gift. I've been given another opportunity. My daughter didn't want to have anything to do with me after me finding her. After she was 24 years, I never saw her. My daughter didn't want, another 3 years, didn't want to have anything to do with me. My daughter, a couple of weeks ago, I took my son over to my daughter's. And I can never be that girl's father. Hopefully I can be her friend, because I was never her father. But now I can be my son's father. I can be the best person I can be, because I've been given this gift. Because NA has never turned its back on me. Because I've become willing to change. Because I far from get it right. I make horrendous mistakes. But I keep trying. I keep trying. And the most precious thing, and thank God Lucy, my wife, feels the same. The most precious thing to me is my recovery. Because I never ever realised for years and years and years, there is nothing if I don't have recovery. There's nothing. I'm a heroin addict, pathetic drug user, who spends thousands upon thousands upon thousands upon thousands of pounds smoking crack that I despise, listening, waiting. When are they coming? And that, the joy and the wonders of friendship and love and harmony and being a father, for years I couldn't stop listening. Waiting for I wanted the worst for myself. Now I want the best for myself. And Narcotics Anonymous gives me the best opportunity of a healthy and productive life. I am normal, relatively. I'm upstanding. I can be relied on. I can be trusted. I'm a good friend. I'm a loyal husband. I'm a loyal father. I never, ever, ever imagined that I could be that person. Thank you.
Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed the podcast. Please help us improve our ranking so others can find us by putting a review on Stitcher, iTunes, or your favorite podcast index. Nawpod is ad-free thanks to the folks supporting the show with $1 more per month. If you enjoy listening, you can join them by going to nawpod.xyz and looking for the donate link. Thank you for listening. Have a great day.